Highwaymen is a new film released by Netflix and it stars Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson, and it tells the story of two former Texas Rangers who were brought out of retirement to track down the infamous killers Bonnie and Clyde. The idea for this film has been around for a few years, and at one point it was being pitched as a possible project to reunite Robert Redford and Paul Newman. Wouldn't that have been cool? Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson seem like fine alternative choices. Harrelson's always really good, and although a lot of people don't really seem to like Kevin Costner, I do. I can't say that he's a great actor, but I think he's a very likeable screen presence. Yes, even as Robin Hood, because I personally don't really give a shit if he can do an English accent or not. And also, if you haven't seen Mr. Brooks yet, see Mr. Brooks. It's really good. These are two well-cast actors who are completely wasted in this. The two leads just aren't that interesting. They get some good moments where they reveal their backstories, which works well enough. Harrelson's haunted by his past and all the people he's killed, and Costner kinda isn't really. But Costner's introduction is really good. We see him kneeling by a river, seemingly out in the middle of nature, and then you hear these car horns honking, and we see that he's actually right beside a city with a bridge filled with traffic, and it's clearly communicating that he's a man of the past who feels out of place in this more modernized world, and that's shown as well by his younger, more cosmopolitan looking wife. And the chemistry between the two is fine, but two uninteresting characters brought together doesn't make them interesting, at least not in this case. The story of the film takes place in 1934, so these guys are basically aging gunslingers from the Old West. So they're old and out of shape, and they can't shoot as well as they used to, which is all fine, but it doesn't really lead to any really fun scenes or any badass scenes where they show up the younger, more cocky, modern cops and FBI guys. I mean, they shouldn't have made it a straight up comedy, but they should have more scenes where they have these two guys show that, you know, they shouldn't be underestimated. In a story like this, where you know where everything's inevitably going to end, a film has to work harder to entertain and surprise. But the hunt for Bonnie and Clyde, as it turns out, isn't that interesting. The film's directed by John Lee Hancock. He directed The Saving Mr. Banks and The Founder, both of which I liked. But the filmmaking in this and in those doesn't really stand out. Those previous films worked due to good stories, dialogue and performances, and not so much to the directing style or the filmmaking. Other than the actual shooting during the ambush at the end, everything's just standard. The cinematography's basic and boring, and the editing doesn't make it seem like we're building to anything, even though anybody who knows the true story knows we absolutely are. It's not really an action film, it's not really a drama, it's not really a thriller, but whatever it is, it's not really very exciting. There's no tension, and there are so many obvious moments that would just be perfect if they injected some tension into them. Thomas Newman's score is pretty good, and he's doing his best to elevate things, and he's trying to make things seem like they're more important than they are, but that really doesn't work. The whole way through I just kept thinking of Public Enemies, which is a seriously underrated Michael Mann film. It's set during the same period and tells a similar story, but the style and the characters, and especially the music, it just makes everything feel so grand and tragic. The scene at the end where the FBI are waiting for Johnny Depp outside the movie theatre feels really just exciting and tense, and it almost feels iconic, especially with the music. One of the more redeeming things about this film is I really like the way that they portray Bonnie and Clyde. The way that the public loves them even though they murder innocent cops and civilians, and that's portrayed as a real sickening fact, and they get that across really well. I like that they aren't really characters and we don't really see their faces. They're always shown in shadow or out of focus, or we see the backs of their heads, which dehumanizes them, but it also gives them a level of mystery. So we're kind of seeing them from the POV of our two leads. And you end up not really liking Bonnie and Clyde at all, which is good. And it's how you'd like to think you would have felt about them back then, when this was all going on, when people were crazy for Clyde and really wanted Bonnie's hairdo. But you never know. I'm going to give The Highwaymen a C. It's not good, but it's not too bad either. It's just a bit average and forgettable. I suppose it works well enough as a companion piece to 1967's Bonnie and Clyde. But seriously, if you haven't seen Public Enemies, I'd absolutely recommend watching that instead of this. Seriously, watch Public Enemies. It's Captain Jack versus Batman, directed by the guy who made Heat. And it's as awesome as that sounds. Thank you very much for watching my review. Please like and subscribe. It really helps me out and lets the channel grow. Follow me on Twitter at LukeToTheMovies. And comment down below. Let me know if you've seen The Highwaymen or if you've seen Public Enemies. Let me know what you thought of it, if you agree or disagree with any of my points. I'll be back soon with more reviews, and I'll see you next time.